The lunar eclipse in Virgo happening on March 14th, 2025 is a very pivotal part of the astrological story in 2025. March 2025 in general is highly significant with both a Venus retrograde and a Mercury retrograde, as well as an outer planet, Neptune, ingressing into Aries for the first time since 1875. So there's a lot going on this month. And especially if you have Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius significant in your birth chart, you may really be feeling this upcoming lunar eclipse happening on March 14th. But frankly, this does affect, all signs, all rising signs. So we'll be talking in this video about the general astrology of the lunar eclipse in Virgo happening on March 14th, as well as Mercury going retrograde in Aries, which is happening essentially the same day. So we'll be talking about the general astrology about that, as well as how that may affect your rising sign. And I'll do rising horoscopes in the second half of this video. So let's go ahead and let's get talking about this energy. So March in general feels like there's just simply a lot up in the air for us. We would have a lot going on just with the Venus retrograde. Venus has been retrograde since March 1st, and we might be really questioning relationships, things that bring us pleasure, hobbies, or things like that. But especially Venus rules different parts of our lives, because where we have Taurus and Libra in our chart, we all have Taurus and Libra somewhere in our chart, even if we don't have planets there, Venus sort of governs those areas. So when Venus is going retrograde, we are sort of reviewing kind of what is up for us in those life areas. Are we satisfied? Do we feel like it's worth it? And also the life areas ruled in your chart by Aries and Pisces as well, because Venus is retrograde in Pisces right now, or excuse me, Venus is retrograde in Aries and will soon be in Pisces as well. So we'd have a lot kind of just going on with that. And then we also have 2 eclipses this month in March 2025. We have the lunar eclipse, this total lunar eclipse, this big full moon in Virgo happening. We have a solar eclipse at the end of the month. And right when this current lunar eclipse in Virgo is happening, Mercury, the ruling planet of Virgo, Mercury, the planet of communication and messages and how we think and communicate, is going to be going retrograde the same day as the eclipse in the sign of Aries. So we have that kind of on top the eclipse, and it really gives, especially mid-month March, this feeling of, reviewing, revising, editing, going over things from the past. And so we're kind of closing past cycles. We're looking at the past where things are coming up from the past. But also we're kind of maybe feeling some significant endings and beginnings in our lives during the month of March. So March can be a little bit disorienting. It's like a month that's kind of surging ahead, but we're also maybe feeling like we're kind of in the void a little bit, or maybe feel a little bit stuck, or it can kind of feel different for everyone, but this is certainly an unusual month. It's a very intense and fascinating month. So, especially with these eclipses, because it feels like we're closing something and starting something new at the same time. So let's talk about eclipses and how they work a little bit. So eclipses are tied to a specific eclipse cycle. So eclipses happen in pairs. There's usually like 2 months out of the year where we have 2 eclipses kind of each month. And we are in a Pisces and Virgo eclipse cycle, generally speaking. So this current cycle started September 18th, 2024, with a lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. And eclipses fall near the north and south node. They're kind of points in space where like the Earth, Sun, and Moon kind of intersect. And essentially what you need to know about the eclipse, about the nodes, is that's where eclipses happen. And since the beginning of the year, the nodes actually have switched into Virgo and Pisces, moving out of Aries and Libra. So the nodes kind of going into Virgo and Pisces really kind of amps up, I think, the energy of this current eclipse cycle in Virgo and Pisces. And it also really begs you to look at the general life themes of the Virgo and Pisces houses in your chart, because that means that we are having some beginnings and endings in these parts of your chart over this eclipse cycle. Now, this is a longer eclipse cycle. Usually eclipse cycles are about 2 years each. Virgo and Pisces one goes for a long time. I mean, it's not like a super regular cycle, but because there's going to be like other signs that are going to be eclipsed kind of in there when we get to like 2026 and in 2027. But what you need to know is essentially there is a new theme happening in the Virgo and Pisces part of your chart. So eclipses can introduce significant beginnings and endings in our lives. It may not feel significant like at the time, but often during eclipses, we can have important people or situations, or like, for example, I had an eclipse 2022. It was connected to my sun in my chart. My sun is in Taurus. The sun in my chart happens to govern my 10th house of career. I was looking at that eclipse and I was thinking, oh my God, what if I'm, my career isn't really going to take off? And it did. I had significant changes in my career, but it's not what I thought I got like a new day job at the time, and that day job ended up being really, really important. And I got that job around the time of that eclipse, and that was a solar eclipse, I believe. So something significant came into my life. It was also I cannot talk today. Significant things were leaving my life at the same time too, because my son is in my 7th house of relationships, and I actually had a breakup during that time. It was like a needed breakup. It needed to happen. It was actually good for me. Still a little sad and emotional, but that's how astrology works, is there's like multiple factors coming in, beginnings and endings coming in with that specific eclipse cycle. Eclipses are also more intense and can feel more disruptive to our daily lives than a regular new or full moon. In this case, it's a full moon, because in this case, the light of the moon is temporarily blocked out, and there's kind of this like wild, unstable feeling to this eclipse energy. Eclipses are often very unpredictable in some ways as well. So that's what I would say. If you do magic or energy work and you want to manifest on the eclipse, I recommend not doing that, because manifesting is like a form of magic. You're kind of setting your intention to energy and all of that stuff. So if you're doing kind of ritual or magic or manifestation to achieve certain outcomes, I would avoid doing it the day of the eclipse, because eclipses have unpredictable energy to them. And when you do a manifestation or some kind of manifestation ritual, it just may not come out the way that you're intending if you're doing it on an eclipse, or, least worst case scenario, it's just that the energy kind of fizzles out around that time. We really want to kind of surrender to the universe. I think a good ritual to do would be to clean your fucking house during this one, because it's a lunar eclipse in Virgo, or really be paying attention to things that we're cleaning out of our lives, or certain things that we are letting go of during this energy. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute here. So, okay, so let's go ahead and start talking about this eclipse. So this eclipse is in the sign of Virgo. It's happening March 14th at about 1 a.m. Mountain Time, if you're concerned with the exact time. Although I will say, events actually having to do with eclipses can come in like a week and a half before to a week and a half after. So, just kind of be mindful of that. So this lunar eclipse is in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is a sign that is concerned with purification. She strives for perfection and efficiency, and she's connected to service and ritual. There is a mysterious and magical side of Virgo that often doesn't get mentioned. And I did want to kind of mention that, because she is, my moon's in Virgo. Let's give her proper due. Virgo is also Virgo is also a practical earth sign as well. So she's sort of she can be concerned with the material world and practicality, because she's saying to Pisces, her opposite sign, okay, that's a grand plan, imagination land, Pisces, but how are you actually going to physically achieve that? It's sort of Virgo's energy. Virgo is going to be like, oh, I noticed a little hair out of place. And she's concerned with making things better, with making things more efficient. So given that this eclipse is conjunct the South Node is about letting go. It's about release. It's about endings. So given that this sign is in Virgo on the South Node, this is a great time to purge what is toxic for you in your life. Physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. I have a Pisces friend with a Sag rising, so she's very connected to this Pisces Virgo energy, randomly talking about how she's going to be eating more clean from now on, or she's going to be watching what she's eating, more concerned with exercise and health, and really having like a really serious sort of come to Jesus moment, just because she's having some health issues with family members, and she doesn't sort of want to go down that same route. So I'm noticing this energy has been really good for people to detoxing, or just kind of sort of connecting to various kind of health things. And again, this can be people, jobs, different situations too. It's not just like food and stuff, but although that can be a very sort of Virgo topic, is like what is going into your body and purifying what is going into your body. This is just a great time to kind of tidy up in general, to make things, if like even driving around like a dirty car, I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself here, like it's time to throw away these wrappers. It's time to sort of clean things up and just sort of make your life more efficient. And also just to kind of, it's almost like you really want to think about sweeping away what is not serving you during this time. And often during lunar eclipses, it's like, we may be having some endings, or we may be saying goodbye to certain things. And it can be sometimes kind of unexpected, but sometimes it can also be very expected. And often with that ending, there's often a beginning as well. I'm going to say also eclipse time is sort of very like ephemeral, and it feels almost out of time. So the day around the eclipse, if possible, I know I'm making this video kind of close to it, maybe allow some surrender and grace with the universe. Don't feel like you have to be in control of things. And just sort of get as much rest as you can around the eclipse and don't overschedule yourself. The south node, where the eclipse is linked to a depletion in energy. And I would just strongly recommend getting rest and not overcomplicating your life in the days around the eclipse. So also with this eclipse energy, Saturn will be opposing the sun. So Saturn is in Pisces. It's been in Pisces since March 2023. And Saturn is the planet of like limitations and practicality. It will be very close to the sun during this eclipse. So it's very involved in this eclipse energy. And Saturn likes to tell us what things are not working. Saturn likes to, make us be patient. It makes us work hard. So this could give the feeling of Saturn opposing the sun during this eclipse, Saturn conjunct the sun during this eclipse, of certain obstructions, of delays, a kind of red light. And if that is the case, if you were feeling that in a very personal way, know that things are being communicated to you by the universe about setting realistic limitations, realistic goals, or communicating to you what is not working so that you can sort of get to work on fixing it. It also just sort of lends a very sort of serious tone to this energy of the eclipse. It's sort of like reminding you about practical goals. What are your personal limitations? It may be about setting boundaries or needing healthy boundaries for you in your life somewhere. Especially, or that or something is indeed starting and that you just have to be patient. Like it's maybe not all coming at once. Saturn is sort of saying like, no, you need to wait. So at the same time, Mercury, the planet of communication, how we think, the planet of sort of networking everything together. Mercury is the ruling planet of Virgo. So what Mercury is doing around this eclipse is very, very important because it's telling us more details about this story. Mercury stations retrograde the day after the eclipse in the sign of Aries. So it is essentially stationing retrograding. It is essentially stationing retrograde on the eclipse. And it is doing that in the sign of Aries. And it's really interesting because Mercury is stationing right near the degree that Venus did when she went retrograde on March 1st. So right at this sort of 9-10 degree range in Aries, there's something happening there. And this sort of adding to this Venus retrograde story. And I'll talk about kind of what that means for you personally when we get to this sort of forecast portion. So this really this sort of lends itself to the energy of reviewing, revising, going over something from the past, as Mercury retrograde is sort of apt to do. I wanted to give an example. So my mom is Virgo rising. So this means this full moon should probably going to feel like on a personal level, like a big sort of chapter closing and maybe feeling some sort of new beginnings for her, like at the same time. So Mercury is going retrograde in her 8th house. My mom is a public school teacher. She's really been looking at like, when can I fucking retire? I am done. And Mercury is going retrograde in her 8th house of like investments, so loans, and retirement accounts are kind of linked up in your 8th house money because 8th house is other people's money. So recently she's been talking about, hey, I think I might be able to retire sooner than I thought I was going to be able to because we kind of found some money over here. We can like put it over here. I'm talking to my accountant and blah, 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 like my retirement guy. That is, ladies and gentlemen, they, them's listening. That is Mercury going retrograde in your 8th house. That is the ruler of this eclipse. It's sort of like bringing in that story. So again, I'll be talking about more of that in that forecast portion, but I wanted to give a real life example of how I can see that playing out. Mercury during this eclipse is saying you missed something. We're going back over here. We're finishing up a project from the past. We're really going back over the facts and details. So it also finally, I have 2 more points. So this gives the feeling also that we are going through a big reset over the days around the eclipse with Mercury retrograde, with this eclipse. It's like you might even feel like you're going backwards in time somehow. And also it's important during Mercury retrograde, dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure that you're sending the right person the correct email, that you checked all the boxes on forms. You might want to back up data if that is important to you. It does rule technology. The days around the eclipse, there have to be maybe some like communication mishaps, or like we didn't see something, or we're just becoming aware of some information. Is sort of like the feeling I'm getting with this Mercury retrograde. It'll be interesting to see what's happening in the world around that time too, because it's kind of giving like systems not working as intended, essentially. Someone made a good point about like the whole Elon Musk like Doge thing, like we're making the government more efficient, even though like they're not. And it could bring maybe news related to that, about how it's actually not going according to plan. So definitely take this as a big sort of reset period. And by the way, Mercury does go direct in Pisces on April 7th, because it's going to backtrack through Aries, get to Pisces, and go direct, in case you wanted to know when Mercury is going direct. Feels like kind of a short one. They're usually like 3 to 4 weeks long, and it kind of feels pretty short, but you know, so just be aware of kind of typical Mercury retrograde things. You know, I would maybe, the traditional advice is like, oh, put off making the big decisions while you can. I would just say, make sure you have all the details and expect maybe that you might have to change your plans once it goes direct. So very last thing with this eclipse energy is that this eclipse is making a sextile, which is kind of like a softer aspect to Uranus, the planet of revolution, change, and breakthroughs at 24 degrees of Taurus. It is almost like this energy is communicating that maybe by releasing some bullshit out of our life, having a general reset, having a general reset period, or generally being curious about different solutions or looking at things differently, can bring about something positive, because we are sort of going about things in an unconventional way. It's like the light bulb moment may simply come during this eclipse. It's like Uranus is known for bringing sudden insights and sudden awareness, or helping you see something from a different perspective. Like this energy, even with this eclipse, even though it's kind of complicated, you know, this energy may be like, it's supportive of trying something oddball or off the wall. It's like supportive of looking at things from an unconventional perspective and helping you to see that, or just simply helping you to break outside of your own box. This energy weirdly may just be like, I'm going to do the thing that no one thought of. Like this energy really supports thinking creatively, thinking outside the box. So if you're that kind of person, it's going to be helpful. And this energy may help sort of encourage people to be thinking, to be getting out of their own way, to just sort of looking at things from a different perspective can bring some freedom during this, you know, around this eclipse energy. So let's go ahead and let's look at the readings for the 12 rising signs. I do these forecasts for rising signs specifically, so you can definitely listen to your sun or your moon as well and blend the two together. However, I would place more emphasis on the rising. You'll need an accurate birth time if you have not done your rising sign or your ascendant. It's the same thing. You can go calculate it on the internet. I do leave links in my notes and comments below if you want to go calculate your birth chart and come back. By the way, if you've made it this far, please remember to like, subscribe, to follow me, and turn on those notifications so that you know when another video drops. And remember, I do birth chart readings professionally. So if you would like a detailed look at the upcoming year, or if you want a shorter reading kind of just on this eclipse cycle, I do have both of those. The shorter reading I don't think is available on my website, so just send me an email and we can get that scheduled for you. So let's go ahead and talk about this forecast for the rising signs. All right, Aries, you're up first. Let me go ahead and share my screen because I like seeing the chart. I think it's cool. It's a cool little visual aid. By the way, remember that all of the rising signs will be time-stamped in the show notes for the audio version of the podcast, or you can just simply click on the chapter if you are watching this on YouTube. So you can just jump right to your sign. So Aries rising, this full moon lunar eclipse for you, it's happening across your work and health sectors of your chart. So this full moon, so Virgo is your 6th house. It rules your work, your daily grind, how you take care of your body. It has to do with like injury and illness and sort of how you manage physical health. There's also things about pets, like domesticated animals in the 6th house as well. So this full moon lunar eclipse, perhaps there's a completion, something coming to an end, or just something really coming bright into your awareness as far as these topics go for you. So know that like how you manage health, how you manage your work, maybe new things with work are generally kind of in flux for you during this sort of during this Pisces and Virgo cycle. I'm going to say also connected to this energy, Mercury, the planet of communication, is going retrograde in your 1st house of self. So Venus has been retrograde here. You might be really thinking, you might be like really rethinking relationships or simply even your identity or how you come across, like how you express your energy in the world. It's like your closet and wardrobe and stuff may not simply, you may feel like it doesn't fit you anymore. You feel like you need to like upgrade how like your look or your body somehow. Because Venus has been retrograde in your first house of self and identity and body, Mercury is joining the party here. So there's this really big reflection period that you're going through. Reflection, revising, reviewing. So don't feel like you have to be making these big new strides and new beginnings right now. If you need this like extra reset time, really take it. And also with this full moon in the 6th, it's like you just may become aware of like how things are not working for you, or you may become aware of like, I really want to change my exercise routine, or I want to change something at work. Perhaps there's changes with coworkers or people that work for you, how you change your work. Something about work and health is coming up to be evaluated, and there's something to be happening with that for you during this lunar eclipse. Taurus, this full moon is happening for you in your 5th house. So Taurus rising, 5th house has to do with children. It has to do with romance and sexual relationships. It has to do with art and creativity, your creative projects, anything that you are creating or birthing into the world, as well as things having to do with your pleasures and your hobbies and things that you do for fun. So it could be that you are like maybe ready to let something go, connected to these things. If it's like a relationship, it's like, we're really kind of thinking about like situationships and like romantic stuff here. There could be a completion or an ending or some kind of like big awareness or light bulb moment connected to these things. It could be feeling like maybe there's a creative block, or that maybe you're ready to birth something into the world at this point, like something is like done that you're ready to sort of like release like to the world. Or it could be like feeling like you're wanting to sort of change something about like your hobbies or what you do for fun. With this eclipse cycle, there's definitely changes in your social groups and friends as well, colleagues and people that you network with that are in your circle. Both of these parts of your chart are going to be active during this eclipse. Because this is ruled by Mercury going retrograde, Mercury is going to be going retrograde in your 12th house. So there is some deep regenerative reflection, maybe private thing happening for you. Because Venus, your ruling planet, went retrograde on March 1st, and Mercury is going to join her essentially right at that degree. And it's in your 12th house, which it's like spiritual health, mental health, again, rest, retreat, getting away from it all. So if you're just feeling maybe a little like extra sensitive, or that you need extra time to kind of regenerate and recharge, you're kind of going through some sort of spiritual incubation process right now. Venus retrogrades for you, yes, are about relationships, and they're also about your vital essence and who you are, because you're ruled by Venus. So when Venus goes retrograde, this is more of a spiritual sort of incubation process. I just said that word 3 times. I'm not really sure which one's correct. Incubation's right, but anyway, so that is going to be part of it. So I would say journal, private time, private ritual, getting in touch with yourself on the deepest level. And I'm going to say even maybe stuff about your inner child as well, just because, 5th house, where this full moon lunar eclipse is, can be about like inner child stuff. Gemini, this full moon lunar eclipse happening in very big parts of your chart. So the lunar eclipse is going to be more focused on home and family things, real estate, your property, roots, ancestors, where you come from, has to do with parents, just generally like private life things is where this lunar eclipse is coming in for you. So like this could be something coming up with family, something coming up with your parents. You could be thinking about moving, something's coming up with your house. There's some awareness, insight connected to your family. There's also generally in this eclipse cycle, there are changes for you in home and family, but also your career, or like, trying to find like a balance of the two, or there's something new happening with career maybe happening like at the same time. I did want to point that to you, just because, with a lunar eclipse, the sun and the moon are in opposite signs. So the sun is going to be in Pisces in your career sector right now. So home and family mostly, but there could be career stuff happening for you too. And just be aware of these sort of themes and beginnings and endings of both of these areas. Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, will be going retrograde in your 11th house of friendships, social groups, colleagues, your goals and wishes and hopes for the future. So you could be reviewing, what exactly do I want to manifest in my life? What are my goals? What are my wishes for the future? Like, what exactly do I want to do? Or it could be like reconnecting with friends and colleagues from the past. Especially because Mercury's going to be with Venus, and Venus is all about relationships, and Venus has been retrograde in this part of your charts. It just kind of gives like communications or connecting with people from the past. You could be thinking about your different group affiliations of what groups that you identify with. It's like, oh, I was an independent, but I'm a Democrat, or I want to leave this professional networking. I'm thinking twice about this professional networking group that I'm in, or perhaps there's changes with friends or something coming in for you here. Cancer, full moon for you is third house. So Virgo's third house stuff for you. Third house is like your daily rituals, daily routines, your correspondences and communication. Think like text message, phone calls, voicemails, emails. And it also has to do with like close childhood friends, siblings, neighbors, like people in your general kind of environment. So there could be multiple things happening for you. With these eclipses in your third and ninth houses, generally speaking, kind of what we see with the third and ninth house eclipses are changes in your modes of transportation, in your commute, events having to do with travel, especially travel with like short distances or short trips because it's third house. Changes happening with your siblings or news from your siblings or with your neighbors or with people kind of around you or in your neighborhood. You could be sort of like learning, you could be finishing up some sort of class or study or certification around this time as well, as those are third house things, especially because it's a full moon. It's bringing something into your awareness or some kind of completion around this time. So it could be like a class or something that you are studying. There's like these houses are really kind of like of like the mind and like higher mind, especially when we look at the Pisces part of your chart. So with this general eclipse cycle of these Virgo and Pisces eclipses, it's really going to be engaging your mind, I think. It's going to be maybe prompting some travel. Also, this eclipse does have to do with career stuff for you as well, because Mercury, who is ruling the eclipse, is going retrograde in your 10th house of career, your public and professional reputations, authority figures. So you're maybe kind of reviewing something from the past or doing something new where there's like reflection about like career stuff. Or the third house thing that you're doing, the course, study, certification, travel, communications projects, changing your daily rituals, and that there's some effect on your career because of that. This full moon for you, also really great time to pull a tarot card, to, connect with your guides, because the full moon in the third house is connected to like the goddess energy, and goddess energy in this context is more like, let me pull a tarot card and journal, essentially. And also, there's other kind of goddess significations that I'm not really getting to, but I'm saying it's a good time to connect with the divine and get some information for you. So, Leo rising, this energy is happening, this lunar eclipse is happening in your second house of finances. So there could be just some shifts and changes or completion or ending relating to your cash, your assets, your general kind of income stream, your paycheck. There might be just something kind of coming in, or perhaps it's sort of asking you to please look at your finances during this eclipse. You could also be realizing something too, of like, you know what, I'm worth more money, I'm not getting paid enough, because it is opposite Saturn, and it might be reminding you that like you place limits on yourself that really aren't real. Like you need to sort of open up and realize maybe that you are worth more. During this eclipse cycle, there does feel like there's just changes coming in with your income, with your money, but also money that you share with other people. Because, the eclipse is also going to be in Pisces as well. Like other eclipses are in Pisces. The North Node's in Pisces right now. The Sun's in Pisces. Saturn's in Pisces. So there's a lot of emphasis on the resources that you're sharing with other people, the intricacies of our one-on-one relationships, like I did this for you, and now you have to do this for me. Or like emotional intimacy stuff can kind of come in with this too. But definitely financial is kind of what I'm getting from this eclipse for you. It could also have to do, also note that Mercury is going retrograde in Aries. Mercury rules this eclipse. So there's going to be this component of like, maybe kind of, there's this revise, review, edit process happening in your ninth house. The ninth house is connected to your spirituality, your beliefs, higher mind, higher education. It could be connected to, I was interested in learning this subject in the past. I'm really going to kind of dive into it. I've always said about going back to school. I'm really looking at going back to school right now. I've wanted to travel to this place. I'm really kind of looking at those things, or something is coming up, connected to the travel or education thing. Sometimes there can be going back over something connected to like a legal situation with this as well, because ninth house can be legal matters or legal ceremony. So yeah, I'm interested to see how those themes connect for you, but there's definitely something connected to long distance travel, education, higher mind, beliefs, and spirituality connected to this eclipse that's coming up. And reminder that Venus has already gone retrograde there as well. So like there's this double emphasis of reviewing and revising house matters for you connected to this eclipse. Virgo, what's up? What's up with you, girl? Virgo rising. This full moon is happening in your sign. So I feel like you're feeling this one already, Virgo. This is definitely time to like sweep away things that are not serving you. This is very much about personal releases, endings, completions. It's a feeling of, it's a completion of a chapter and opening up of, and like an opening up of something else. I would really say to not overanalyze this. Virgos have a thing where they need to sort of overanalyze everything. The sun, during a full moon or a lunar eclipse, the sun or moon are going to be in opposite signs. The sun is in Pisces. The north node is in Pisces. The north node is where we bring in more. It's beginnings. It's increase. And it's like you're supposed to, I think, let go and surrender to some kind of like mystery of the universe and like let go and know that things will just work out, essentially. Don't worry about the how, don't worry about the how or the details right now. I would say purification of the physical body, purification of your surrounding, doing a little clean of your surroundings or your home or your space or kind of what's going into your body, releasing spiritual baggage that you've had for a long time. This is really prompting. This is a major eclipse for you, major cycle for you. And just know that there are beginnings and endings kind of working themselves out for you right now. There is something connected to the money and resources that you're sharing with others. So retirement, your investments, student loans, grants, things like food stamps and EBT would also be connected to eighth house as well. Money that you share with like a roommate or like a partner, the emotional intimacies that connect you with partners as well. You're reviewing and revising something connected to probably your money and resources right now. It's like I would go look at those retirement accounts. I would go look at, are you paying too much for insurance? I would be just kind of going, I just feel you kind of going back over those things. Things also connected to inheritance, things connected to matters of death as well, estate and death and inheritance. These are topics of the eighth house as well. The other side of this could also be something more spiritual. I wouldn't say it's not really spiritual. I'm connecting up to the divine. It's sort of like, let me investigate what is happening with me internally and energetically, especially when it comes to like relationships with other people. Am I carrying around other people's wounds and baggage that I don't even realize? The eighth house can be a place where we sort of store emotional trauma, given that Venus is retrograde there, Venus being about relationships, and Mercury is going to join her. It's sort of about like, am I running on people's energy? Is this me or is this, someone else? So a lot going on for you, big endings, big beginnings for you right now. And know that there's something deeper going on with money stuff, with emotional stuff with this eclipse as well as Mercury goes retrograde. Libra rising. Oh, I need a sip of water. Libra rising. This full moon lunar eclipse is happening in your 12th house. This eclipse, I think, is really asking you to pay attention to psychological, mental, spiritual health. It is going to reveal to you ways that you might be self-sabotaging, revealing to you maybe people in your life that maybe present as allies and friends, but might really not be there for your, may not be 100% healthy for you. This would really I would also be looking at like dreams, paying attention to your dreams or sort of messages from your subconscious. This eclipse series in Pisces and Virgo is really going to be having you look at how you take care of your physical vessel as well, how you manage injury and illness, and how you work, like your work and your daily grind, things at your job are going to be coming up for this eclipse series for you in general. But this one in particular is about the mental and spiritual health component. And so definitely get rest and some alone time, maybe during, maybe like around this eclipse. Don't expect yourself to do too much. It could be about also like releasing like emotional baggage that you've been carrying around that you don't realize. It's just like, it's time to let go of it, because that South Node going through your 12th house for the next, 16 or so months, it's really going to be having you eject emotional and spiritual baggage from your subconscious, from your aura, So this eclipse is ruled by Mercury retrograde in Aries. So there's something connected to your relationships and your one-on-one partnerships that you're like revising, reviewing, editing. Is this relationship dynamic working for me? Is this healthy? Or, interested in like, hey, there's something from the past that I might want to kind of revisit. The seventh house is also kind of our contractual agreements too. It could be business partners and business things and money things. But often it's our one-on-one relationship. So, and given that, Venus has been retrograde since March 1st, Venus is your ruling planet, you might be really feeling this review process with partnerships. There's something kind of interesting happening for you here. And so now Mercury's joining. It's like, and kind of looking at this eclipse, it's like, which relationships in my life are really serving me? Like, what is really healthy for me and what is really kind of outdated? So, Scorpio rising, full moon is happening in your 11th house. So there could be some sort of completion or some event or culmination or ending connected to your friendships, your social groups, colleagues. There's changes for you in your social groups. Maybe new friends coming in later, later in the year as well. A lot of stuff with your social life, as well as romances, art, leisure, happening for you as well, because Pisces, the opposite sign in this eclipse, is your 5th house of romance and pleasure and hobbies and what we're creating. So changes in these two areas are coming in for you with this lunar eclipse. Focus on that 11th house. It may also put in perspective too, like your hopes, wishes, and goals for the future. It might be that we're manifesting a goal for ourselves right now, or that we're kind of going back to the drawing board, which is more likely about revising and reviewing kind of what we are sort of focused on. This eclipse for you is ruled by Mercury retrograde. Mercury is going retrograde in Aries. Aries is your 6th house of work, how you labor, how you take care of your health and injury and illness, exercise, daily health things, your daily grind, coworkers, people who work for you, your work environment, also pets. So we could be rethinking where we work, how we work, who we work with, how we take care of ourselves and our health is connected in. Are we satisfied with these things? It can also have to do with our relationships in our workplace as well. So interesting for you. I will say also, Scorpio rising, since this eclipse is sextiling Uranus in the 7th house, there could be some like relationship component that could surprise you also with this eclipse as well. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. Sagittarius, your full moon is happening in your 10th house. Sagittarius, you are one of the signs that I think really may be feeling this eclipse energy. You have an ongoing story of beginnings and endings happening in your career sector, things having to do with your professional and personal reputation, authority figures and bosses, as well as secondarily, I would say home and family and property, roots and ancestors, because that's Pisces for you. That is your 4th house. And that is where the sun will be during this lunar eclipse. But I think it's more likely maybe there's an ending coming with career and you're ready to close a chapter, move on to something else. It could be that you're accomplishing some kind of goal, around this eclipse time, or just, like an event. It's going to kick up 10th house stuff. Career matters definitely seem to be where this full moon is pointing to, where there's some sort of beginning and ending for you happening. And this is a major kind of, these eclipses being on the angles, the 10 and the 4th house, these are major life areas. These are major sort of tent pole areas for you. Mercury, which rules this eclipse, is retrograde in your 5th house. So these are matters connected to romances, connected to pleasures and hobbies, art projects, things that you're just simply creating, creative projects, children. So Venus has been retrograde here. Maybe we're revisiting relationships in the past, or our dynamic in romantic relationships, or what we're creating and what we are creating, things connected to children and childbirth. So Mercury kind of joins the conversation here, and there is this 5th house component of like, am I happy and satisfied maybe in my career? Is my career feeding my creativity? Is my career in alignment with my, wanting to have a family and have children? Is, or maybe career might be connected to like, I need to feel more creatively fulfilled within that. So that's kind of what's going on for you. Capricorn rising, full moon for you is happening in the 9th house. So definitely a time for you to connect to the divine, connect to spirituality. It could be that you're completing something, that there's a completion or culmination or something highlighted connected to higher education, some sort of something, maybe you're going to study astrology, right? That's like a 9th house thing. Or maybe you're going to study some kind of subject or some kind of subject area, or learn something new. Perhaps, you're completing some sort of educational program. Maybe you're just more connected to your beliefs and philosophy and spirituality than you normally are. With this eclipse cycle happening for you, generally speaking, I think you're really going to be learning, studying, traveling, engaging your mind, opening your mind to new experiences, essentially. With this full moon happening in your 9th, I also would pay attention to dreams that could be prophetic. You might want to set your intention that you would sort of get messages in your dream time. Eclipse time is known to just bring kind of nuts dreams. Anyway, the 9th, like the moon kind of going through the 9th, can bring like important messages through dreams and like prophecy. This would be a time to, because this is like the house of God. So this is a time to connect with the universe, to connect with your with spirit and with your spirit guides, to get some like deep insight and kind of like the meaning of your life and where your life is going. So, and I would maybe even like look at like free-form journaling, or just letting your mind wander a little bit, as Pisces, the opposite sign in this eclipse, is your 3rd house of like mind and communication. This eclipse also may come back to family things and home things for you, because Mercury is going retrograde. Mercury rules this eclipse. Mercury is going retrograde in your 4th house of home, family, property, roots, ancestors, and parents. So there could be something important, some important conversations with connected to family, or connected to your legacy, or just kind of important conversations that be happening behind closed doors for you. About, home, family, property. Are we moving? Are we not moving? Like, what's happening with that? Something coming up from the past regarding home and family as well is coming up for you with this eclipse. Aquarius rising, this full moon is happening in your 8th house. So this could be money stuff for sure. This could be inheritances, things connected to estates and taxes, matters around death too. I'm not saying like, oh, someone's going to die. It's more just like, like when you have an eclipse in your 8th house, sometimes it can be like, I need to figure out what's happening with my life insurance, or like who gets my money when I die, or what's going on with my retirement accounts. It can also just be looking at your investments or money and resources that you have tied up with other people. And this could also be like a loan's approved, or we're getting a loan, or something with credit, something is maybe going on there. It could also be like that those matters, those 8th house money matters, could need for you like more information, or that you're having to revise and go over something, or there's a document that's needed, like an extra thing that's needed, because Mercury, the ruler of this eclipse, is going retrograde in your 3rd house, which is like daily correspondence and emails and information and things like that. It also could be There's also going to be something unrelated, that's happening with siblings, neighbors, with how you get around in your commute and like your daily routines of how you like the rhythms of your life. Like you're maybe rethinking those somehow. I will also add with a full moon in your 8th house, it can also make you more aware of like buried emotional stuff, or it can also make crystal clear like your emotional dynamics that you have in your relationships as well. That could also be coming up for you with this eclipse. Pisces rising, definitely one of the signs I think you'll be feeling this eclipse, considering it's in your opposite sign. The sun's in Pisces for you. This eclipse for you is about relationships and partnerships. There's something coming to a head. There's a completion, a culmination, a lot of activity in your partnership sector. This is one-on-one relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, partnerships. Just your one-on-one relationships here is going to be going through a lot of changes. You've really been going through, I think, a level up process. Saturn has been very demanding of you and asking a lot of you in the past 2 years that Saturn has been in Pisces. It could be that we're going through self-development, and then all of a sudden maybe we're ready for a relationship, or maybe we are ready to close or end a relationship sort of chapter in our life. But big changes for you personally. Big changes personally, new chapters, new beginnings, and also endings, kind of weaving its way through your personal life and your relationship life. Also think about relationships too with job. It doesn't have to just be relationships personally, but like your contractual agreements that you have with like various entities could be coming in. There's going to be some money stuff tied in for you here as well. Money, income, your cash, your assets. As this eclipse is ruled by Mercury, which is going retrograde and joining Venus retrograde in your 2nd house of money and cash, your income. So you could be rethinking where you're getting your money from. It's if the money is worth it, where you are right now, if you could be making money doing something else. Like you're really kind of looking at like, the resources that help me support me in my life. I think we're just rethinking it. We're revising it. We're editing it. We might just have to change kind of where it is coming from. But yeah, a lot going on for you with this particular eclipse. Hang in there if it feels kind of intense. And also there is an element of just surrender to what the universe is asking for you. There is some kind of clearing out in your relationship life. There is also maybe a beginning for you as well. But I would say clear out the clutter in relationships, and also think about your self-worth and like the money that you're making as well. There's definitely some kind of revising or reviewing process sort of coming for you with this. All right, that is everything I have to talk about. So thanks for watching this video. Again, if you made it to the end, thank you so much. Make sure that you like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling this energy. Subscribe to the channel and set up a notification. And if you're looking for a birth chart reading, this is what I do for a living, at least part of the time. So you can head to my website, which is dogstaroracle.com, DOGSTAR Oracle. It's also should be in the corner of my little branding thing and should be in the notes. Till next time, good luck, everybody. And remember to surrender and clear out what isn't serving. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks, guys.